Good morning, guys, and welcome back to Dusting Off Warlord, Saga of the Storm, featuring Sorceress Ygraine. On the whole, I don't particularly enjoy playing Deverenians. I have much more fun playing Nothrogs, much more fun playing Freaks, but Ygraine is kind of an exception. I'm a really big fan of Sorceress Ygraine. She's been around for a very, very long time. I believe she came out in, was it Nest of Vipers or Tooth and Claw? She came out in one of the early pre-campaign sets. And I actually didn't really like her then. I really only played a handful of stuff back then because I had no money. I had my Sir Robert deck, and I think I had Icarus. I had a couple things. It wasn't until a little bit later that I was actually able to start picking up cards, but she really did not impress me at all in the beginning. And then a single card got printed that completely, in my opinion, changed how you play her, how she can play. And once I built the deck, even back then, with just pre-campaign and campaign, I kind of fell in love with playing her because she's a lot of fun. So let's take a look. Sorceress Ygraine. She's a level 4 evil Deverenian. She is both a wizard and a fighter. She has only one melee strike at +7. She's got 16 armor class, +9 skill, 3 hit points. She does have repost, so there is a potential another attack. If she's got repost at +5, she needs a 6, so that's not bad. And then she has this react. Once per turn, after casting a spell, perform a melee strike. So actually, even though she's only got 1 +7 printed, just off of her card here, as long as she's drawn a spell, she can potentially be swinging 3 times a turn. That's not going to be enough. We're gonna change. We're gonna do something about that. I am going to skip a little bit ahead. Again, I'm usually I have these. Well, I mean they're in order right here, but usually I try to have my video structure. This one we're gonna kind of throw that out. The card that got printed was Dueling Saber. This card, do I have an original printing? Yes. This card came out of Hero's Gambit. This card is, if I am playing a wizard that can equip this and go to the front, this is one of the things, like I think I mentioned this in Zoltan Bloodletter. This card is awesome. I love this card. It's very silly, but I think it's pretty good. It's a 5th level weapon. It's a fighter weapon. Just +2 attack. It has one ability, order, spend Dueling Saber. Target a character within 1 rank who performs a melee strike targeting this fighter. Perform a melee strike against the target. So immediately with Ygraine here, because she has repost, you throw the Dueling Saber on her, makes her attack +9, which is pretty nice. You spend this, and it causes them to swing on you. After that swing, you can repost, but she also has she also gets to swing back with the saber itself. So in addition to that, wizards have a lot, and some of this again, there's going to be some overlap with the Zoltan deck. Wizards have a couple ways of kind of punishing you when you make melee strikes on them, and I think a lot of the reason why they have some of these is it's usually, I think most of the time, it's not good when they're able to make melee strikes on your wizard warlord. Again, with her, we want her to go to the front, and with characters like Zoltan, you're on the front. So, just like in Zoltan, I can't remember what I went with him as far as these two cards. In this case, we're running both of them. We're running 3 copies of Ygraine Treachery and 3 copies of Devious Illusions. These are both reacts that happen when you're targeted by melee strikes. Ygraine Treachery gives you +2 armor class for the strike, and if you're a wizard, it's got some other text, but if you're a wizard, you get an additional... no, if you're a wizard, you... Good lord, I need to focus. I'm excited. I love this. This chick's awesome. If this character is a wizard, perform a melee strike targeting the attacking character after the strike resolves. So, you Dueling Saber, they swing at you, you play this, you repost after, actually, I'm not sure the order matters. She reposts, she gets the strike from this, and then the saber itself lets her swing back. And then Devious Illusions, this is a 2nd level wizard spell, or rogue spell, I guess. After this character is targeted by a melee strike, succeed with a dexterity check, DC 16. Now, she is the one who has to make this check. If successful and you're a rogue, this strike's a critical failure, doesn't apply. If successful and this character is a wizard, inflict a wound on the attacker. So, even without any buffs, she only needs to roll a 7 to succeed with that, and it wounds them before they actually swing on you. It's after they target you. So, yeah, it can be bad. It can be a bad time with Dueling Saber, and it's like they don't want to swing on you, and the Dueling Saber kind of forces them to. It's a good time. But we are also running 3 copies of Burning Hands. And again, I believe I've referenced this card several times, mostly in relation to Amadasi's Inferno. This is a very simple spell. It just gives the wizard the ability. It's an order. Once per, it gives you the ability. React before a melee strike roll targeting this wizard. Perform a melee strike with an ATK of +5 against the opponent. Now you can modify that +5. It's just instead of using her +7, you have to use the +5. But every time they swing on you, Ygraine can attempt to flail back at them with the burning hands. And this card can, in some cases, this can be like a, maybe not necessarily with her. With her, I think it's still really good. There are some scenarios where, especially if you have a rogue with a black steel dagger on, this card becomes it becomes like a time stop, like a time walk, like, not time stop, yeah, time walk. Like, people are just like, I'm not doing it, because if I swing on you, it kills me, because that makes it like I think it makes it like +11 for 2 wounds. Not a whole lot of people want to take that, so, those are, I think, again, I should have kept this in order. I don't care, it's fine. Again, my show is not exactly high on quality here, so but that's the general plan we're going to be doing. We're going to be trying to get her a dueling saber, have her up front, and then just anytime strikes come at her, whether they're just trying to kill her because she's your warlord, or you force them to make swings on her, they get punished for it. Sometimes severely punished for it. So this also. Starting with this, this is the most bizarre, probably the most unusual start I have maybe in any of my decks. And it's unusual for several reasons. One, this breaks out of the mold of starting Justinian or Acolyte Dora for a starter, because we finally there. I do have a deck that does. It's a dev deck that doesn't start those. We are starting 2 copies of Stanchion and 3 copies of Sidor the Avenged. So, really, the only real, in my opinion, maybe not in my opinion, actually, yeah, in my opinion, one of the only really reliable ways to get a dev warlord to the front really quickly is to play Oblite Hound with some steeds. We're not going to do that because we're not. We are instead going to Sidor the Avenged. I've mentioned this guy several times. This guy's awesome. If it's the first turn and he dies, you stun a character within 1 rank. No check involved, nothing. Just die, and you're near me, you're stunned, so get bent. He gets an attack buff if it's not the first turn. That does happen quite a bit because people don't want to kill him. And the only way I have to kill him in myself in here is to use the dueling saber. Actually, maybe I have other things, but use the dueling saber on this and you can kill it off yourself. The double stanchion, this only really needs to be one of them. I'm running 2 because when I was running 1, the first one kept dying. And I really need this alive because what we do, at least what I do with this, is, generally speaking, the first thing, unless you drew gear for Ygraine, after you've played any equipment, any items on her that you can, you stanchion her twice and you just stun her forward and you hope that she doesn't die. The 2 stanchions by themselves will put her up to AC 20. Again, there's other ways to buff her armor class. You can also you can spend one of the stanchions in the rank she's in, and then if they don't kill your Sidors, you can move the other stanchion up into rank 1. Stanchion doesn't require to spend himself. You just have to spend a character in this rank. So if you don't want the Sidors to be punching, they can start buffing her armor class if she's already up or if she's moved into rank 2. And you just hope you don't die. You can't really do anything when you're stunned, and it has backfired spectacularly sometimes, but she really doesn't care that she's spent at the start of the second turn. At least most of the time she doesn't, because most of what she does doesn't require her to spend. I mean, she loses out on 1 melee strike, on 1 +7 melee strike, which it can be important. It's usually not. So, very silly, but it's fun. It's funny to watch her go, just fall forward. It's hilarious. But we need to keep her alive when she's there. So we've got we've got quite a few support pieces for her. Couple copies of Temple of Lore. This is not as good with her as it is with some other warlords because the bonus is only +4. But +4 is a big deal. It's pretty awesome. And then we've got 3 copies of Roman Aedroud and 3 copies of Squire Fastus. Both of these characters basically buff Ygraine. The Romans have to be next to her, and the Faustuses, they just have to be in the same rank as it. These just give her, +2 armor class, neither +1 or +2 attack. Yeah, and they can, in some ways, kind of function as just extra hit points for her, kind of like what I mentioned with Jodin Drak and the Brother Dominies. And you can run those in here, too. I'm just not. I want devs in this deck, at least for what we're doing here. We also have 3 copies of Caleb the Shifter. So one of the things that oftentimes happen is if Ygraine is sitting on burning hands and she's got others like there's a lot of stuff for her. People don't want to kill her unless they think she's like either they don't want to swing on her because it's too dangerous, or if they do, they want it to be like they want to wait until they can one shot her. Like they don't have to keep going through all the steps. It's just I hit you and I'm gonna do 3 wounds and you can't. Yeah. Caleb the Shifter is kind of interesting because if they're trying to kill off your support pieces, you can use Caleb to redirect the strike to her if she's the only other character in the rank. Yeah, so if it's her sitting next to a Temple of Lore, a Caleb can shunt it onto Ygraine, and that's a great time there. You can also, if things have gone horribly wrong and she's gonna die, you can use this the exact opposite. You can move this to move strikes away from her. Probably doesn't keep her alive, but you know it's fun. And one of the reasons I wanted fighters is because or devs is because we are running actually dev fighters. We are running 3 copies of Tamar the Protector and a copy of Iphignia. Whatever the hell whatever her name is, I don't care. Tamar gives dev fighters in the rank in front of him plus 2 armor class and skill. Those are both important. Obviously, the skill for keeping her, or the AC for keeping her alive, skill is important too. Iffy here. She's kind of like a lesser version of him. She doesn't give a skill bonus, and yeah, they don't stack, and so we're only running one of them because of that. And then, of course, it's devs. So we've got a copy of the Sable Knight because this guy is just the freaking best in the world. I believe he's one of the only other actual combat characters. And yeah, you don't expect him to do much heavy lifting. But he's in there just because his ability is awesome. His stats are great. He's a freaking phenomenal character. As far as other toys for Ygraine, we're going to do 2 copies of Spike Spalders. This is kind of a not good armor. I like it because it's not high level. Ygraine being level 4 and her almost always going to the front on turn 1, it kind of limits the kind of gear selection she has. Like normal level 6 items that frontline single class fighters can usually equip, she can't do it. You can work around that. I don't really want to do that. Spike Spalders is twice per turn. After target character targets this fighter with a melee strike, they have to make a DC 12 Fortitude save or suffer wound. Very much plays into what you want to be doing with the deck. DC 12 is not very good, but again, there's a lot of things that will fail that, and it's if you have enough of these things going off at once, like it may be, you know, their skill may be +7, +8, +9. They only fail on 4s or 3s, but if they have to make a bunch of dice rolls in a row, it can and will happen. So maybe not optimal, but that's what we're going with. Similarly, we have a Fire Dance and a book from the Anathema set. These both basically do the same thing. These work on other things too. I believe the Spike Spelter is only melee strikes. These work on other stuff. It's all really the same. It's checks that they have to make or take wounds when they're targeting you. Fire Dance in particular, really, this could be something else. This could be like a, what is it, Tortoise Stance? I have it somewhere in here. Is it Tortoise? Yeah, this could be something like Tortoise Stance. This, I don't know if I would normally be including, and I guess one of the advantages you have when you aren't playing, I don't want to say by the rules, because it's not quite accurate. Burning Hands is not a fire spell, but in my play group, things like Burning Hands, things like Tidal Blast, these are fire and water actions. Like, you can't really argue that they're not. Flame Arrows would not be a fire spell if it didn't get reprinted. So if they had reprinted Burning Hands, reasonably certain it would have the fire trait. I'm wondering, actually, because I know someone's been updating the Accordlands website with stuff on it, with some changes. Like, I think the damage types are up there now, so maybe that'll get changed in the future. In our play group, Burning Hands puts a charge on this, so that's pretty awesome. We also have a couple other just random things here. Symbol of Cerberus, little tiny stat buff. I'm a big fan of this card. It's just a little buff to everything, and the skill bonus is nice too. A copy of Invisible Shield. Again, she can't equip a lot of good shields because her level's too low. This is +3. I like it. It's nice. She can spend herself if she has to, so whatever. Bruntor's Helm for the extra hit point. And then Ring of Smiting, because planar, I understand, actually, I don't understand why the trait exists. It's the worst thing ever, okay? So it is so depressing. It is so depressing when you have your bonuses are amazing, and it's, sorry, did you roll an even number? No? Oh, that's too bad. Yeah. Yeah. And then rounding it out, a couple other actions. We've got 3 copies of Come Get Some. This is a very odd card, and again, I don't think I've ever seen anybody else ever play this. I cannot even imagine what other deck I would play this in. I don't know, maybe one of the buffing paladins or something? This basically just says, until the fighter dies, the fighter that plays this, other characters in this rank can't be targeted with melee strikes. Basically, you put this on your Ygraine, and it makes the rest of it makes all your little support characters, your little cheerleaders, they can't get punched. They can still get shot, which is a weakness that she has. But it makes it so they can't get punched, and so they have to punch her, and a lot of times they don't want to punch her. So this again can become like kind of like they just pass out because they don't want to be swinging on her. 3 copies of I Have Your Back because yeah, this is multi-use. One, you can use this kind of like Caleb the Shifter. You can use this to direct strikes to Ygraine, and the other fighters can use this to help hopefully prevent her from dying. Yeah. And then we've got 2 copies of Meet at the End. I really should cut something to make a 3rd one because Meet at the End's awesome, and you really want the Dueling Saber. It's not like 100% necessary, but it is really good, and it forces them to do things they don't want to do. So I've been playing basically this deck in some version of it or another for quite a long time, and it's so much fun to play. Where it's like she's sitting there, and I can just imagine her almost in like a rapier dueling, with her hand up like this. And yeah, no one wants... She's like, come fight me, and no one wants to do it. It's fun. She's a blast to play. There are a whole bunch of different ways you can play this differently, too. Probably the most immediate one that comes to mind is getting her up to level 5 for spells with something like Black Iron Ring or Spellbook, and then putting in Power Word Kill, which I believe is the strongest one of those... you swing at me and you might die for doing it effects. I don't do that just because I don't want to have to play multiple copies of these. But if I don't draw these and I draw the Powered Kill, it becomes a dead card, and I don't really have a way to toss cards in this deck. Like, I can't just turn a useless card into some kind of effect, so it literally just sits in my hand. So you can also, and I believe I alluded to this. I need to stop saying that. You guys don't care. You can kind of change the lineup a little bit and take out a bunch of the wizards and put in clerics. You have Evan Meredith, Mother Deanne, and Cardinal Broman, along with some others. These are just the ones that immediately came to mind. You can put those in. You could put Wall of Swords in. This makes it so you really do want to draw the Dueling Saber, but it makes the Dueling Saber effect so much more dangerous. Like, this Wall of Swords with Dueling Saber, especially if you have a way to ready the Dueling Saber, this can be a bad time. I think that is much better run out of, what is her name? She's like sitting over there somewhere because I was thinking about her earlier. Sigrid of Laura. You can play it as Sigrid of Laura, and I think it's better there. I think the Dwarf Clerics are generally better, and you don't have to play stuff to ready your items. But if you want to, I do think it is doable with her. I just don't think it's as good. You could also include something like Fair Warning, which, again, Ygraine doesn't really care most of the time if she's missing out on her just attack, because usually you have other ways of triggering all her abilities to go off. Fair Warning gives you repost, defend, and a little bit of armor class, but you can also defend and repost any number of times per turn. This is another card where if this is going off, and the only things that are in the rank with her are like a Temple Void to her left and, I don't know, a Roman Age Route to the right, like, they may just stop swinging at you for that turn, because it's like, do I really want Ygraine freaking reposting me a bunch of times over and over again? The answer is usually no. There's so many other pieces of equipment you can give her. Tefl Tiger's Mask. I don't think this card's very good anymore after the 4th edition errata, which I'm gonna freaking rage about at some point. At some point, I've been saving just little snippets of things for me to bitch about when they get reprinted or MRP'd or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Don't really think it's worth it anymore. Not with it not lasting for the turn, but you can still play it. Rod of Resistance is just extra hit points. It's basically a worse version of Bruntor's Helm, because it doesn't give you the AC buff, but whatever. Greaves, in case your play group is playing Exhaustion, you freaking hate that shit, and you're just like, yeah, well, Greaves. Elven Chainmail, Collar of Damnation, Wyvern Jam, all great stuff. One of the other things you can do, too, again, her being level 4 and like face palming into rank 1 as one of the first things you do, it really limits the other items that she can be equipping. One that I really, really like, and again, going back to Zoltan Bloodletter is Album's Prism Cloak. This is really, really good with her because again, if they're playing a frontliner who needs to be in the front to get anything done, Dueling Saber with Prism Cloak, that can be really bad. Like that can be like my Warlord's basically he's not gonna be non-spent or stunned unless I find a way to get rid of this or I turn it off. I win initiative and I turn it off with Wand of Negation or something like that. You would need to, I think, make some changes. You have to include something like Uthevil Tremaine so that you can equip this in rank 1. You can do that. This would also open up some other things too. I've never done that because, again, I think it's fine as it is. I can't remember what I don't know if I was even running armor before the Spikes Boulders. I think I was running bone armor just as some discard pile hate, and yeah, I can give you +4. So yeah, that is Sorceress Ygraine. And again, I'm not super big on devs. I don't dislike them, but outside she's so much fun to play. So, and for the most part, not really all that complicated. You just move her forward, Dueling Saber it up, and dare them to swing at you. I have had games where they have a lot of like shooting, and yeah, that doesn't end as well. In that case, it can be really bad, and she doesn't do so great. But again, I've also had games where they will basically say I'm passing out, and they haven't really done anything because it's like, okay, I'm not gonna wade through that. Like it's not gonna happen. So that can be. I don't think that's fun for them, but I find it hilarious. No one's forcing them to not swing. So I mean, yeah. Thanks for checking this out, guys. God bless you, and I'll catch you in the next video.